Testing. Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you. Thanks for making it out tonight. I know it's a sunny night and I know there's a Leafs game, and I was told that no one's allowed to talk about the score tonight, so nobody say anything about that. Before we get started though, I'd like to call Murray Smith up to the stage to do a welcome to the territory. Thanks, Mary.
More Toronto talk. I'm so curious about Toronto. What? Sim gigat. Like a gigat to get my nan. I think about waxed. Algam Cathy, why you? Gandhada, get 12 yards. Lou am already will spy the Hawks could. I was some. Chiefs and matriarchs, honored guests. What I said was that I'm very honored to be mixed in with you, to be part of this group here, to see what the plans are for the traditional territory of our people, where we used to hunt and fish and do all the winter here on Keene Island. So it feels good to be here, to be a part of, not apart from. So I'm really glad that the mayor has invited me to do a welcome in our traditional way. And I always preference what I say with my grandfather, William Sampson, who was a Haida. And he came from Heidelberg, Alaska to Masset. I don't know how he met my little granny in Port Simpson, but he did. And here I am. What he used to do in the Nass River people, I love telling this story. The Nass River people used to go home from the cannery work in the fall, and they had these little gill netters, and they take the drum out in the fall, and they put a tent in there and a little stove. That's where the family stayed. They go down to Carl Bay and get all their winter supplies, and then they go up the Ianch and all those villages along the way, but only on a big tide, 24-foot tide. I tell you this because my grandfather would watch out who was going to anchor below his home. And he'd tell my granny to put on some hot water. We'll make some soup. We'll call them off the boats and stretch their legs, and we'll give them tea. We'll feed them. He made friends by doing things like that, by doing a real, genuine, warm welcome to the people. So it's that in mind that on behalf of the territory that we're on right now belongs to my good old friend, Buddy Helene. And it's a Gitjis. I don't speak for them, but the rest of the tribes, I do welcome you on their behalf, just like my grandfather welcomed those people into his home and gave them a meal. So I hope you enjoy this evening, and God bless you, and I hope you pray for Toronto. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. I appreciate it. Yeah. I'm not here to sing a song. That's not what this is about. So, welcome everyone. I feel like I should be announcing the new iPhone with this little headset like this, like I'm some sort of Steve Jobs character or something. But what we wanted to do today was just bring everybody together and just give a full community update. So much going on. And I just kind of wanted to start with a bit of a story because I think it will set some precedent for tonight's conversation with you guys. So when I was growing up here in Prince Rupert, two of my favorite sports were baseball and soccer. And I remember I had a crew of friends, and we used to bike around town, and we used to tear up the place, and we used to play baseball and soccer, and we had kind of our small little crew. And I remember one day when one of my friends came up to me and told me that he's moving out of town. And I remember being super upset about that, and he was upset. I was like, where are you going? He's like, why am I going? Oh. And we were all upset, and it turned out that what ended up happening was the mill closed down at that time, unbeknownst to us really what was really going on. And then next thing you know, a whole series of friends basically started to leave town. The baseball league shut down, soccer started to dwindle. You know, we didn't even really understand what was really happening in the community until about the time we were graduating high school, which for me was in 2003. And then at that point, the town was where it was at. And there's kind of a psychological effect on a community when there's an economic collapse like that. And our generation hasn't really experienced this community like previous generation has. We hear the stories of the heyday of Rupert and how you used to be able to go to the docks and get a job and work the canneries and buy a house and all those types of things. And the reality is it's not really our reality, this generation's reality when it comes to this town. We haven't really experienced it that way. We kind of woke up into a community that was basically in decline. And no fault to anybody. But that's kind of what the story of Rupert has become, is this decline. And psychologically, the community itself has that imprinted, right? We lost jobs, we lost families, people moved, and the people that were here afterwards did their best to try to hold this town together the best they could with the resources they had. And so one of the things I wanted to say tonight is that tonight is not about dwelling on that, blaming anybody, or taking credit for anything that's happened here tonight, or what's happening in the community. It's really just about giving you guys an honest assessment of where I personally believe, and council as well, who are here tonight, and our staff, of where we are and where I think we're going to go. And I think by the end of this presentation tonight, you're going to get a sense of, actually, we're about to turn a major corner, a major milestone, and we're going to leave the past behind. So tonight's a bit of a symbolic message to everybody that time to update our minds on where this community is really at, and I wanted to bring some clarity to a variety of different topics. So tonight really is actually about a positive vision for the future, and that, yes, there's a lot of negativity, but it's nothing that we subscribe to on council. Really what's happened now is we have a new team that has emerged, not just as a leadership team on council, but as our staff. We've done a lot of work to reorganize internally the city's staff structure, and we have what we call our repatriation campaign internally going on now in the community, which means we are now targeting specifically Rupertites to come and work for this city, so that people who are passionate and want to work here and want to raise their families here are going to be the ones who are going to build the next generation of this town. Because what was happening after the mill is people would come and go out of the city, and they'd use this place as a springboard, and then they go get a job somewhere else. So what we've done, working with the city manager, is a new internal process with Public Works, Rec Department, at City Hall, and we're building a new team that's motivated, that has passion, pride, and feel purpose around some of the things that are going on in this community. So it's been a huge shift in terms of the energy at City Hall. A lot of people excited, a lot of smiling faces, trying to tackle some of these big challenges. So tonight really is going to be in two parts. Oh, turn this thing on. There we go. So we're going to talk a bit about where we've come from, which I've just talked about, the challenges we face. Essentially, I'm going to start with the bad news. There's a lot of things I think people don't quite realize the circumstance that this community has found itself in. And then I'm going to end with the good news that once you see, I think, where the strategy we've employed, people are going to get very excited that a new horizon's around the corner. So in the past, we had an over-reliance on resource industries, one in particular. We had a major population decline, a third of the population left, and we cut about 20% of the staff capacity at the actual city itself. And essentially what ended up happening, a lot of the skilled labor went with this town as well. And what happened, though, ultimately, is that no major asset management plan was ever put in place for this town at the time. And you know what? Really, it's not about people not doing their job. It's just the thought in the 20th century wasn't to think about what happens when this stuff we build now gets old. And that's now a new thing now with the 21st century, is that everything's basically 100-something years old. It's all crumbling now. And in fact, you can't even get a grant from the government anymore unless you have an asset plan for the future. So there was never that in place. And what ended up happening then, it made it so that we had a massive infrastructure issue that is unique to the Northwest and is a huge challenge for this community. So currently, we face a $350 million infrastructure problem in the community. That's what we call our infrastructure deficit. And so what that means is that we're not cash poor, it's that we are infrastructure poor. We just don't have the resources to fix some of these issues. And I'm going to go through what our big ones are. So first one, RCMP. Everything on this list these are mandated requirements that we have absolutely no choice but to do. Okay, no choice. And in fact, most of these have to be completed by 2020. Otherwise, we actually get a fine if we don't complete them. So this is going to be the daunting thing, I think, for the community to fully realize. But RCMP, we've been mandated to build a new RCMP building. It's about a $30 million shot. We're just getting close to finalizing a location that's suitable for the RCMP. There's been letters back and forth since 2011, and essentially we're trying to get to a point where we can finally get that location secured, and then we're going to have to invest $30 million into building a new RCMP facility. And what we have to do with that, unfortunately, is have them ultimately agree to where the location is going to be. And that's been what the challenge with this has been. We would say, here's a spot. They said it's not up to our standard or our place that we could have this, and there was a big back and forth on where this could land. And so now we're at a point where it has to happen. So what we did to buy some time is that we've had to upgrade the jail cells to get those up to code to buy some time for this. Because right now, with the current budget we have, $30 million would most likely be a loan, which would be about $1 million a year for the community, which would be about a 10% tax increase just to pay for that particular problem. Next up, landfill. Our landfill essentially is filling up, and it's actually getting to a point where we're not going to be able to take in huge, large items anymore. And we might have saw that in the news here recently. And so what we've done is, the first thing we did is we upgraded the east berm, so that's going to give us capacity till 2019. Then there's the west berm, when in 2019 we're going to activate that. That'll give us some increased capacity till 2020, 2021. And then come 2021, we actually have to invest about $10 million plus into opening a whole new cell that will give us another 30 to 35 years for the landfill and the community. So this is another huge challenge for us, and it's coming within the same time frame. The next one, arguably our most challenging problem, is wastewater treatment. So essentially what happens now is all the waste goes into the ocean. This town was built 100 years ago, and that's how it is. However, there's new requirements. By 2020, this has to be built, legally speaking. And we have 13 outflows that go into the water. And what this requires, ultimately, is every line in town to be twinned off. So you have to have a waste line and a storm line. So both of these lines basically have to be created, which basically means we have to rip up every single road in town. Every single road in town has to be literally ripped up, and we have to lay 2 things of pipe down, and then we have to cap those outflows that go into the water, and then we actually have to build a place where the waste gets treated. And so this is a $175 million project minimum. And what we're trying to do right now is, like other communities that are facing the same challenges as us, even if we could pay 25% of that if we got a grant, it's still a huge challenge for us to pay for that portion of it. Because usually what happens with grants is you end up doing a third, like provincial, federal, and municipal. But what happened with the new federal government that came in, they've now allocated 50% funding for these types of projects. So some relief, but definitely not all the relief. And so what we're trying to do is apply for a 2030 to 2040 extension, and we're working on a plan for this to move it forward with the government so that we can try to tackle this problem. But technically speaking right now, we're required to build this thing by 2020. And then the last thing is our water supply. So right now, our water supply is about a $25 million project. I'm going to get into this a little bit later in some of the solutions. You might notice there's a slight discoloration in the water. That's because we're on the secondary water supply right now, because we're upgrading the lines to the main water supply, and some construction's been going on, so you might notice a little bit of like coloration. Just so everyone knows, the water's fine, it's tested regularly, there's absolutely no lead in the water, and that whole thing about the lead is what it is that a lot of the homes in town have old pipes, and we deliver the water there, and then those pipes can leach lead out of those pipes. So we've put a notice out with Northern Health that basically shows how to kind of address some of those things. But there's, in the actual water supply, it's safe to drink, it's fine to drink. But in 1990, the plumbing code was upgraded that said no more copper pipes, so now everyone's homes need to be upgraded, as well as public infrastructure as well. And if they're not, they need to be flushing that water out for now. So what we decided was, out of all this stuff, we're looking at having to spend $250 million by 2020. It's actually impossible. That's not going to happen. It's just impossible. Unless some miracle happens where we have the money fairy come and drop us down into the, that's just not going to happen. So what we've had to do on council is make some priorities. And the first priority we thought of was, look, water. We're going to have a problem in this community if you can't turn your taps on. So we decided that's the first project we're going to go with. And we've now got 2 phases of this project fully funded now. And I'm going to get into what this project looks like in just a little while. So these are our mandated problems that we have really no choice but to address. And then we also have other considerations. Our fire hall has fallen down. Our wooden bridges on 2nd and 6th, that's $18 million just for those 2 bridges. They need to be replaced. They have to be. We are experts on keeping wooden bridges up to standard at this point. We actually have a global reputation for that. Our airport ferry. I'm going to get more into our airport access stuff because I think you're going to be really excited about some of the plans that we have for that. But it's definitely the same ferry since the 70s, which I wasn't even around then for that. Roads and sidewalks, we're looking at $67 million to do the entire town, which is going to be part of the cost of the waste treatment. So that's all going to kind of happen. So when we pave a road, some of the thought we have is, look, paving is really not what we should be doing. We actually need to be ripping up all the roads. And so it's a Band-Aid to put just some pavement down. And they all need to be rebuilt basically from the ground up. So that's a huge challenge. And every time we do that, like I said, we're twinning the lines off now to get it started. But that's kind of some of the challenges we're facing there. And then the other thing is, everything we fund needs money. The library building's falling apart. The Leicester Center needs hundreds of thousands of dollars of upgrades. The golf course, same thing. And the list goes on. Every group comes to us and says our whole asset is falling apart. And we're like, we know. I promise you there's going to be good news by the end of this. So now we're looking at another $100 million for this stuff. So we're looking at about $350 million to kind of fix the town. And the way I would look at it is like this. We're living in a house, and everybody wants nice paint on the walls, they want a new couch, they want a TV, they want some planters, they want nice stuff. And the reality is, though, the foundation is so terrible that what we're trying to do is address that foundation and try to paint the walls at the same time. That's kind of the strategy that we're going on, because we understand you can't just ignore the nice stuff that you see every day. The roads, we all know the roads are terrible. We all get that. In fact, I think we know the most because we have every single pothole accounted for where they are in a digital online mapping system now. So I'm going to add another layer of bad news, because I just feel like ripping the Band-Aid off here tonight, guys. The next layer of bad news is this. Once I get to my notes here. We have 2 huge revenue challenges, too, that are essentially stopping us from moving forward. What I'm going to talk to you about now are the two major issues with this community and why we haven't been able to move forward since the mill closed down and why we're basically stuck. These are the handcuffs that have been placed on this community, and it's no fault to any previous council. And I'm going to talk to you first about the first one, the Port Property Tax Act. These revenue challenges, I just want to preface this, are provincially based issues. It's not about the port, they're not about the industries. We want those industries, we want those jobs, we want people to be working here. So I need to put that out there because this is not about the port and this is not about the industries on the ground. It's about a legislation that was put in 2004 from the provincial government. And what it is this. In 2004, the government came in and said, look, we have all these marine export industries in BC. And every municipality had different tax rates for these industries on export. And the government said, you know what, we can't have a different tax rate, say, in the city of Vancouver and across the way at the city of North Vancouver. They have two different rates, and one's paying up the nose and one's not. So they said, we're going to just standardize the rate. We're going to make it so that municipalities are not allowed to collect more than what is a 2250 mill rate. So they capped the amount you're allowed to collect off of marine export industries. So that was legislation in 2004. And what the point of that was ultimately to incentivize investment in BC. They called that the dark ages of the port at that time because we didn't even have Fairview the way it is now, right? So they needed some growth and they needed to give some incentive to these companies. So they said, look, we'll cap your taxes and you make your investments. Okay. The problem now is there was a massively unintended consequence to this that we're still facing today, and this is the problem. What happens is this, at a capped rate, the industry's capped, and in Prince Rupert, every single industry we have is capped. They all qualify for the Marine Export Industry Port Property Tax Act. So every single industry we have, we're actually not allowed to collect the taxes off them. And what happens is, at a capped rate, that asset depreciates over time. And so what ends up happening is as the value goes down at a capped rate, they actually end up paying less and less tax every year to us. And here's an example. This is the container facility. And again, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, which is paying the taxes that the province has said they're allowed to pay. So it's not about the company, it's about the provincial legislation. In 2008, they paid almost $800,000 in taxes. But at the capped rate with the depreciation, every year they've been paying less and less tax to the city. Now what's supposed to happen is the province is supposed to give us a grant to make sure we stay there. That was the point. However, that grant doesn't actually do depreciation. It only worries about inflation, which is like $10,000, $15,000, $50,000 here and there every other year. So we haven't been getting this top-up. And what's happened is that it's handcuffed this community now. And how do we make that difference up? We have now been forced to jack up residential and commercial tax rates to make this difference up every year, which is why taxes have gone up every year since 2004. This is the noose around this town's neck, basically. And right now, I'll get into the solution of this after, it's a difficult challenge. We had some extra cash in here after the expansion, but again, this is going to start to go down. So they're paying 28% less than 2017 they did in 2008. Here's an example. This graph here is the residential tax rate since 2004. You'll see that in 2004, a major decline happened in the revenue when then the cap was implemented. And then all the major industry revenue basically petered off and declined till now. This is the commercial tax rate. Between these two, we have some of the highest taxes in all BC per capita, and we have the third largest highest business tax in all of BC per capita because of this issue. What we would usually do is balance them out, right? We would say, okay, well, this is how much we would do for major industry, this is how much we'll do for commercial, this is how much we'll do for residential, and balance them out. Unfortunately, we are not allowed to touch this. So we're capped. We can't do anything about it. I'm going to give you an example. Here's the Crest Hotel and the casino taxes combined. You'll notice they've had to pay more taxes. 12% more since 2008. And I'm going to give you a comparison now because this is a scary business here. There's a container port is blue and the rest in the casino is orange. You'll notice that these lines start to meet. They're starting to meet. And eventually what's going to happen is the container port's going to pay less tax than both the casino and Crest combined. I mean, this is insanity. So, to give you a 3D look at this, here is our light industrials, which we don't really have much. Here is our major industrial. This is all the port properties now that are capped. Here's our business taxes. And here's our residential taxes. So basically, our residents have been forced to pay the bills here, and no city council has been able to get rid of this chain. So it's really not a council's fault, because this is also affecting 8 other municipalities. It's not just us. We're just the most impacted. We have to get out of this mess if we're going to move forward as a community. There's just no way around it. And people keep blaming the city for not being able to get their things together and their budget's this, and you might as well just slash everything. That's not true. There is good news about this later after, I promise. Okay, so that's the cap. Now let's add insult to injury. Ridley Island Tax Sharing Agreement. So, in 1981, there was an agreement made with Port Ed and Prince Rupert. And what this agreement was this. Port Ed felt that they were being impacted by our mill. They felt there was, the mill at the time was doing a whole bunch of stuff, and they felt that there was impacts, and they had no way to reconcile that. So what happened was, when the grain terminal and the coal terminal were being built on Ridley Island, it wasn't in anyone's boundary. And what happened was Prince Rupert got that in its boundary, and it's called an article of incorporation, letters patent, basically. And through that, there was an agreement struck between the province and the city and Port Ed that Port Ed would get 20% of the revenue from Ridley Island because of these impacts that they're getting from Watson Island. Excuse me. Okay, so what ends up happening is right now, 22% of the entire Port Ed budget is Rupert taxpayer dollars. And what happened with this, unfortunately, with this agreement, that nobody decided how this agreement ends. It actually goes in perpetuity, which means forever. There's no clause that says this agreement ends. It goes, and every 5 years there's a review, which is a letter from Port Ed saying we're not interested in reviewing. So what we've done is taken a different look at that, and we've kind of reanalyzed the situation and said, wait a minute, how is this possible that this has happened? And this has always put Prince Rupert and Port Ed at odds with each other. In the last 15 years, the city of Prince Rupert, the taxpayers of Prince Rupert have transferred $8.4 million to Port Ed. And this year, the payment's going to be almost $1 million because it infinitely grows based on how Ridley grows. Here's a couple things that happened, though. The mill shut down, the original justification, but the payments kept going, and we got a cap on our taxes in 2004. So not only are we now have the cap taxes, we're not allowed to collect the taxes, but they get 20% of those cap taxes now. So we've said, look, this arrangement's got to change. Unfortunately, who's the perspective of this is not on equal terms. And we've tried our best to do some diplomatic solutions, but we're not reaching a place where we can all agree. And I'm going to get into that after. But here's another issue too, is that we have shared services that we all depend on. The airport ferry, the landfill, the capital costs of that, the Leisure Centre, the museum, all these things that Port Ed relies on. And they don't pay into those things. The only thing they do is give us 3% back of that 20% for recreation purposes. And so we've been approaching them about shared services agreement to no avail. And so basically, we have to pay for another town and can't collect the taxes off the industries here. So put a handcuff on and try to run a town like that. So those are our two huge revenue challenges, which have forced us into the situation we're in. However, I'm going to get into the solutions of these in a moment here. So the other challenges we have are these challenges here. So we have an airport ferry. We're the only municipality in all of Canada that runs a ferry to an island. It costs the taxpayers about $1 million a year. We have a very remote water supply that's very difficult to service. It's about 7 to 10 kilometers in the mainland across from Seal Cove. We got left with a mill that we had to decommission, and taxpayers are the ones who are on the hook for that. And then we have a regional service interesting situation where Rupert's the only real big municipality in this area, and we end up taking everyone's services on. We have 5 First Nations around us. We have Haida Gwaii. We have the North Coast Regional District, which we're the only main one that can pay into that into those services. So really, we're on our own in the North Coast on this island. And so this has put us in a very challenging position. So what does it all come down to? We need money. See, people say to me, oh, if you cut this $200,000 here and you cut $300,000 there and maybe get rid of a bunch of staff and it'll all be good. The reality is, though, folks, we need to make $200,000 to $300,000 a year just to keep up with inflation. So even if you shave a $200 here or $300 there, next year you still need to make another $200,000 to $300,000 just to keep up with rising fuel costs, contractual arrangements with our employees, things like that. So we're on no matter what, an infinite 2% uphill battle. So the reality is, we don't need $500,000 a year. We don't need $1 million a year. We need $10 to $15 million a year if we're going to get this town anywhere in a sustainable place. That is how much money we need to generate. Okay, now the good news. We're going to talk about these revenue solutions, and we're going to talk about our HASTE 2.0 model. I think by the end of this part, you're going to feel excited. First up, here's our little agenda for this. What we're doing about this tax sharing agreement. Talking about Watson Island. I'm going to talk about the resource benefits agreement, our asset management plan, and then how we're going to start restructuring some of this local taxation. So first up, Watson Island. So 2015, we issued the contract to decommission the mill. And the way that happened was through the confidential settlement agreement between us and Sunwave, who we've been in litigation with for a long time. Between then and now, we've got the whole island basically torn down now. All the chemicals are off the site. 95% of everything that was on there has been recycled. The leadership of that has been our city manager, Richard Pucci, Paul Venditelli, our team who have been managing the situation. And the capacity it takes to tear down a mill like that, let me tell you, it's astronomical. They've been doing a phenomenal job for this community, getting this island ready to go. Because here's what we've realized. This is actually our ticket out of here. This is our golden nugget for the community. This is our opportunity now, which was once the bane of our town, is now the opportunity. And so what we've done is been able to secure a anchor tenant on the site, which is going to go right there. And that's Pembina Pipelines. Small scale, $275 million propane facility. And what we're going to do is be able to collect lease payments and taxes off any industries that are going to come on Watson Island. And so what we've used Watson Island for now is to do import-export opportunities. We rebranded the island called Watson Intermodal Trade and Logistics Park. There was a nice little jingle written about it at the Strata Christmas extravaganza. The other thing we've done is we've been able to expropriate Lot 4, which is now on title. And now City is now in full control with full title of Watson Island. Thank you. And a lot of this has to do with our staff and our council leadership on this. We finally decided to just start the process of doing something about that. Next, we've done something new and innovative, and we formed a corporation called Prince Rupert Legacy Incorporated. And Prince Rupert Legacy Incorporated is a company that's wholly owned by the municipality of City of Prince Rupert, and it has 3 boards of directors, which is our city manager, our CFO, and our corporate administrator. And it has a very strict articles of incorporation that gives us oversight from council. And what the point of this company is this. This company now controls our port properties, Watson Island and Lot 444. Between those 2 properties, it's about almost 3,000 acres of waterfront developable properties. What we're going to do is this. We are going to do a model, and this is other municipalities are doing this too, because as I've shown you, we can't just rely on taxes anymore. See, that was the old mentality was, oh, just sell the land and someone will do taxes. Well, the reality is that's just not how it works here, particularly because we have a cap. And the lease payment's actually where the money comes from. So what we're doing is, between Lot 444 and Watson Island, we're going to collect lease payments into Legacy. And then on one hand, there's going to be a dividend into the city operationally, so we can start to do things like more road works, fixing all the core things we're doing, like sidewalks and buildings and parks and trails and all the good things we want to be doing. But at the same time, the rest of the money is going to stay in Prince Rupert Legacy, and it's going to be used as an infrastructure bank for the future. That's why it's called Legacy. So that all those first items I showed you, the wastewater treatment, the RCMP, we're going to have to match those grants, right? And sometimes those matching of grants can be $20, $30 million. And so rather than trying to raise taxes 30, 300% to pay for those things, we're going to use Legacy as our opportunity to be able to match those grants. So we'll have 2 streams going like that. The other thing that this gives us is we can't collect taxes on things that are just slightly outside our boundaries. So this gives us the opportunity to joint venture with companies, say, that are operating out in Port Ed or operating in the area, and we can have that business arm to be able to work with those companies that are coming here forward. So Watson Island basically is going to be an opportunity for us. And the good news from that is Pembina is getting close to finishing their permits, and I can't exactly say yet how much, but it's in the millions a year for this community on a project that is only on 13% of the island. So our plan is to have that island fully subscribed over the next 5 to 10 years and have it fully subscribed, making the type of income we need for this community. That's the plan. And we're on target now. We have an agreement. They're getting their permits done. This thing should be up and going, and they've already been doing early works. People are out there working on the island. It's happening. So that's good news. That means wedging in, getting some money in, going to help us get some things started. The next. Thank you. So Prince Rupert traditionally Can you pause it for a sec? Sorry. So just to give you a preamble to this is the next opportunity for revenue. So 18 municipalities and 3 regional districts from Haida Gwaii and Vanderhoof have banded together and have formed what's called the Northwest BC Resource Benefits Alliance. And I'll let the video play, and then I'm going to explain a little bit more after. A booming community. It had a mill, it had a forestry sector, it had a fishing sector, and in 2000 we had a 3 times collapse of all those industries. We had half our population leave, and for 17 years we've been in nothing but a struggle to rebuild ourselves. And there's so much opportunity in Prince Rupert and in the Northwest of new resource development to occur. And if we had a resource benefits agreement in place in those times, we could have been more supported from the region as we rebuilt ourselves. And so working together as a region rather than in siloed community approaches, whether or not the Smithers has mining or Rupert has port development, we can support each other, increase our revenue that goes to each of those communities to support infrastructure development, to support services, so that Rupert and local taxpayers don't have to have their tax increases to support those services, while we can all support each other regionally. Okay, so what this is this. Right now, in all of the Northwest, between mining, the port, forestry, all across our area, there's almost $500 million in the last 2 years that was generated from here. from provincial taxes from all of these industries. All of the money goes down to Victoria, never comes back. And so what we've said is, look, we would like to get a portion of that revenue come directly back to all of our communities. So there's a thing in the Peace region called the Fair Share Agreement, and they split $100+ million a year amongst their communities. So the city of Fort St. John, for example, gets $22 million a year from the province every year from the provincial revenues of the industries that are happening in the area. And to give you an example of how much dichotomy that is for us, the city of Fort St. John is in the same position as us when it comes to the RCMP, except their RCMP building is about $45 million. Ours is 30. We're struggling to have to get a loan, probably going to have to raise taxes 10% unless we get some money from Watson or other industries, what to talk about. They're just going into reserve because they're getting $22 million a year from the government. So they have that money just in the bank. So like, oh yeah, we'll just take $45 million out and build a building. That's the benefit of something like this happening in our area. If we can get an agreement with the government, that would be from Haida Gwaii, all the communities in Haida Gwaii, Rupert, Terrace, Kitimat, Houston, Telkwa, Vanderhoof, all of them. We would get a share of that, and then we would have direct revenue for our communities over the next 30 plus years, and that could be anywhere from a couple $100,000 a year to $20 million a year. And so what we've been doing with this is I'm on the political committee of this RBA, and we've been meeting every Friday at 2 o'clock. We have a conference call on, and what we've been doing is had a strategy in place to get $300,000 out of the provincial government to help capacity fund so we can start a process of negotiating an agreement with the government. And just last week, or 2 weeks ago, you might have heard that there was that $300,000 was given to the RBA and our group. So our first phase was successful. We got $300,000, and we met with the Premier in Kitimat when he came up to the Northwest, and he committed that he wanted to do something with us. And so first phase is complete. Just this morning, I was on a 4-hour conference call, and we're now discussing our negotiating strategy, and we have our group together, and we're going to start, come May, meeting with the Ministry of Finance to start hashing out what this could look like. If we can get this done, it's not just about Rupert, this is the whole area. That would be significant revenue then coming into our communities. So this is the next opportunity, and we're really working hard on this. And it's not about pro-industry this or pro-industry that. All the simple message is this: there's already all this industry here. Over 50% of the major projects in BC are in the Northwest, generating all this revenue. And what happens now is the province has what's called the Rural Dividend Fund, which is a $75 million pot that we all have to compete against to use. The problem, though, is that rural dividend pot you can't even use for infrastructure. So you can't even use it to do the things you need to do to fix the stuff you need to fix. So it's it's not a situation that's working out right now. And so this is one of the strategies that we've employed to try to increase the revenues. So Watson Island, now the RBA. The next thing is addressing the Ridley Island tax sharing agreement. And to be quite frank, we can't afford this. We just can't afford it. So here's what's happened. We signed an agreement with Port Ed back in, I think it was 2015, 16, and we agreed that they would give us $500,000 a year back for 2 years in exchange for a couple other items like us taking their sludge and stuff like that. But we also agreed in that agreement that we would renegotiate this deal by the end of 2017, or if PNW LNG, which was in Port Edward's boundary technically, made an FID, which they did. They decided not to move forward with the project in July that year. And Port Ed's mentality was that Rupert should have no share of this project in our boundary, but still felt somehow they were still entitled to the revenue in Rupert. So it's not a good situation there. So we said, okay, well, fine, but you agreed to renegotiate. We failed to renegotiate the agreement by 2017. We've been trying our best. I just want everyone to realize this has nothing to do personally with the people on council there or the community. Love the people there, great bunch of people. hey, I'm marrying a girl from Port Ed. So it's not about that. It's just about what's fairer, a fairer arrangement. And nowhere in the whole province of BC is there a relationship like this between two municipalities. In fact, what happened is we were able to finally get a facilitator from the province to come here and facilitate the situation, and who created a final report from this situation, and that has now been submitted to the province just as of 3 weeks ago. And if this was a relationship like in other places, Port Ed may get a per capita arrangement, which would be maybe like $120,000 a year, not 900, infinitely grow. And so what we're doing now is giving one last opportunity, because what's happened too is the government's changed, right? We had a Liberal government, now we have a BC NDP government, and we're giving the government one last opportunity to force a final resolution to the situation. And we have put our best foot forward on what we think is a compromise solution. We're not saying cut it all together. We have a unique way we want to go about it, and which includes shared services and things like that. However, if this doesn't get resolved with the province, then we're going to be calling on the community to help us, because we cannot continue down this road, and we're going to need the community's help and support on whatever happens next. However, we're going to give the province the opportunity to see if they will do the right thing and get a resolution here, and so that we can once again work more collaboratively with our neighbors. Next. So before I talk about this, I'm going to talk about AltaGas. So AltaGas is going to be operational next year. And AltaGas, so far, is the only industry that doesn't actually qualify for the cap. So they actually aren't classified as, I believe it's like a petroleum export industry. So that means on our initial assessments, we can't exactly say because we don't know what the project's full worth is going to be until it's operational, but that could be actually $1 million plus a year for this community. So between AltaGas and Pembina, we're looking at a few $1 million a year for the town. So this is for sure. So next year, we're for sure going to be getting some money. And come 2020, when Pembina's operation, we're going to be getting some money. And if we can get this RBA deal, that should be hopefully some money. If we can get a resolution with the Ridley Island tax sharing agreement, that should also be some extra revenue. And then this part here, so the caps. This is a very, very difficult solution. So what we've done is this. Last September, when the new government came in, I decided I'm going to call every mayor that's affected by this. So I called every mayor, Delta, Surrey, Squamish, City of Vancouver, District North Vancouver, City of Vancouver, us, and I'm missing one. West Vancouver, I believe, has a small sliver of stake on this. And I said, look, I want to talk to you guys about this thing. And they went, yeah, absolutely. So we all met at what's called the UBCM, which is the Union of British Columbia Municipalities Conference. And we all sat and talked about this. And everyone agreed, yes, we need to do something together on this. And so what happened from that point is, after some conversations, it was decided that our CFO, Corinne Bauman, the CFO of the District of North Vancouver, and the CFO of the City of North Vancouver would create a joint technical document that we could go together to the government to present what the impacts of this cap are on all of our communities, which we had just literally submitted back in March, I think, is when we submitted this document. And the new Minister of Finance, Carol James, has committed to work with us on analyzing this legislation. Ultimately, there's only two solutions. Either the government gives us that depreciation money, that top-up, and keeps doing that, or something fundamentally changes in the legislation that allows us to at least collect a fair amount of income. Because right now, between the Ridley Island tax sharing agreement, which is about $900,000 now a year, and the caps, which is about 1.2, we're out about $2 million a year right now, just from existing things that are happening here. Could you imagine what $2 million more a year right now would do for us? I mean, there's so many things we could do. Like the McKay Park was only $100,000. There's lots of things we could do with $2 million, particularly with roads and all those types of things. So right now we're out $2 million just from what's here. So that's what we're doing with that. I'm working with the other mayors, I'm working with the other communities, and we're trying our best now to come together on it, which is the first time this has happened. And because Rupert's the most impacted from this, I had no choice but to reach out to these people, right? Eventually, I lost all diplomatic options. The government just kept writing us off. I said, well, we're going to have to do something different, and this is what we're doing now. And the thing, though, is to change this requires a full legislative change. So it's not going to be an easy process. However, like I said, between AltaGas, Pembina, potentially an RBA agreement, and hopefully a renegotiation of the Ridley Island tax sharing agreement, we should be able to wedge a few $1 million a year for this community, which means hopefully not having to touch taxes for a while. Just Monday, we announced no tax increase this year, municipal tax freeze now. We're trying to get our, thank you. And council's committed to making sure that we don't just keep infinitely raising taxes on people, particularly because people don't see what they're getting back from all these high taxes. And now I think you're understanding the picture that this town is facing. Okay, so that's the money solutions, which is super important. Now the next step, Haze 2.0. Haze 2.0 was a vision that we launched in 2015. And it's more than just a piece of paper with some statements. What it actually is a community model. It's actually a way to organize the community's thoughts and the priorities we have into different categories that kind of make sense. It's also an internal program for the staff as well, keeps them organized. We have new jackets and hats and stuff for our public works guys that says Rebuilding Rupert. So it's a 5-point vision. 1 point is redesign Rupert, which I'm going to go into each topic here individually, which is our public engagement and kind of physical changes we want to do in the community. We have becoming a global community, which is kind of like our economic development view of Rupert. Rebuild Rupert, which is our infrastructure and asset renewal program. Partnerships, which is kind of the underlying tone of this entire vision, which is that partnering with community organizations, with First Nations, with people who want to see this town go is what really fundamentally defines this vision. It's embedded within all of them. And then what we're calling our 2030 Sustainable City Initiative, which is more around the sustainability things, renewable energy, things like that, which we're going to talk about at the end. Rebuild Rupert. So Rebuild Rupert is our infrastructure development plan. Our flagship project is the Waterworks project. It's also our asset management plan. So here's the scoop. If we replace a bridge, there's going to be a little pot of money that's going to be put away for the future replacement of that bridge 80 years from now. So everything we replace is going to start having money put away for the future of that replacement. So it's going to be an infinite asset renewal program. So come, 30, 50, 70 years, when that thing's lifespan ends, there'll be money in the future for those things. So that's what Rebuild Rupert also is about. Paving, infrastructure replacement timeline. So we're going to start. So this is some of the Rebuild Rupert results that we've done already. We got the downtown paved 3rd Ave plus Cal Bay paved last year. That was about a $3.9 million project from the provincial government. And we were able to partner with them to get 3rd and Cal Bay done at half the cost because we had an economy of scale with their paving contract. We're replacing all the sidewalks downtown over 5 years because the bricks are all falling apart. Accessibility is an issue downtown. There's lots of ski hill types of sidewalk areas. That's part of our downtown plan as well, which I'll get into. We got a tree grant, so we put some trees downtown from CN and BC Hydro. We have a downtown facade improvement program, so we have a grant, $16,000 grant a year that businesses can apply to start fixing up their storefronts, like the Remax building, Eddie's News. So we're starting the process of starting to get those storefronts slowly but surely up and running. We did our landfill expansion, the East Brim one, so we can wedge that into 2019. We got the entire island of Watson Island decommissioned, which was a huge project. We replaced our public works building, which was 60 years old. It was not in good conditions, and we actually saved over $1 million on that by using some existing modular buildings and are now being installed for the public works people. We've also done lots of improvements to the library, RCMP, the Lesser Center, reducing their costs operationally by getting some of the heating efficiencies and things like that. And there's a whole other thing here. There's just some of the highlights. Oh, and our Waterworks project, which we're going to get into now. So I'm going to watch this video first, and then I'll talk a little bit more about it. Rebuild Rupert. It's a part of our new initiative to get the city's infrastructure renewed, to replace the city's water infrastructure for the next 100 years, because the previous lines here were over 100 years old. They needed to be replaced, and we're looking to secure the city's water infrastructure for the next 100 years for the benefit of the community. And this is one of our top priority projects, and we're looking forward to seeing this the first phase complete here in the spring of 2018. So that's our flagship project right now. And so what it is this: we have a 3-phase water supply upgrade. Phase 1 we got fully funded. It's actually just completing now, which was that we were going to take. Let me back up. So to get to our water supply, you got to go to Seal Cove, and a boat takes you across the harbor. That takes you to a truck. That truck takes you to an ATV. You take that ATV, takes you to a trail. Then you hike 2 kilometers to get to the dam, and someone's got to do that twice a week. Very difficult to service. So what we've done is the first phase, and this was in 2015, we went down to Victoria, we banged on some doors, we got the first phase funded $4.4 million project, which was to replace all the original 100-year-old lines that go right down to Seal Cove area there. We replaced those with new pipes, and we built a road all the way to the dam. We buried those pipes, because right now they're actually above ground, the original pipes, and they're all on landslide. They're on landslide zones. In fact, in 2008, a landslide took out the city's water supply, and at that time, our backup system was these really old generators that cost the city $20,000 a day to run and fuel. And so we were able to replace those generators as well, which was an $800,000 upgrade before we did that. And so that's first phase. So you can access the dam, as well as we have a fiber line that goes right to the dam, so there'll be internet connection up there as well. Phase 2, which we then got funded as well, is the dam itself. So at Woodworth Lake, which is here, and underneath it is Shawatland, which is our secondary backup supply. There's a dam at Woodworth, and so what we're doing is building a new dam in front of that dam, and then we're going to take that old dam down, and that will be the new dam. And that's now what we're moving into, putting some tenders out for that. However, one of our new goals as part of Rebuild Rupert is to think about innovation in terms of, if we replace infrastructure, how can we actually generate revenue off that? And so we have really smart engineers who have thought, you know what, why don't we produce power out of this new dam? So that's actually what we're designing into the dam. We're going to design the dam in a way that can actually produce energy, which means we could potentially generate revenue for this community off that hydroelectric project. It also creates resiliency, because let's just say something that, thank you. Let's just imagine, like in 2007, when there was that mudslide, took out the gas line. You know, what if we're in a situation where we are out of electricity? It happened last May, I think. We had a whole day out where the line was cut, and we had to have the backup generators, their diesel backup generators BC Hydro has. We could produce energy for ourselves as well if we needed to. So this is something we're doing. Now the third and final phase, which we have not got fully funded for, which is one of our main missions right now, is to replace the submarine lines that go from the mainland into Cane Island. So that will be the project. And once that project's complete, then we're going to go move into the next list of those 4 things. And over time, we're going to do one thing at a time, one project at a time, and it's going to basically, we created a timeline now to 2040. You can take a look at this more detailed out in the foyer when you guys leave. But we have an infrastructure plan now that's based on the economics of our town, obviously, that we feel is realistic, doable, that takes us to 2040. And this is non-negotiable. There's no negotiating this. People's views of this is, you can have your views. This is how it is now. We have to take care of these problems. We have no choice. We need to address them. It's time to clean up this town. It's time to do this stuff. So we have a plan for that. Waterworks is the first project. We got 2 phases funded. Hopefully get the 3rd phase, and then we'll keep moving on into other projects. And that's what Rebuild Rupert is all about. Okay? Keep us organized with our infrastructure priorities. Moving on, redesign. So Redesign Rupert is actually all about kind of the cool, fun stuff. So it started in a public engagement process in 2015. We did a 2-year public engagement process, did over, I think it was over 2,400 engagements in the community, and basically built a vision. I think there was a few people here at our Civic Center event that came out from that, and we got input from the community on like, what is it that you see needs to happen here? A variety of priorities came out of that, and where we've landed now with Redesign Rupert is a few avenues. The one thing that really came out of that, people know the downtown and the waterfronts we need to do something with them. Quinitsa, Seal Cove, downtown, we all know that. So that was one of the big priorities that came out of that, and now phase 2 of Redesign Rupert is going to begin going here soon, and that's what we're going to be focusing on. Another big thing that came out of that was recruitment and retention. Because of port development now, a lot of the businesses in town are having a hard time finding people to work there. Skilled labor. People are just going to the port. And who's to blame that? Of course, it's good money, right? We want the jobs here. However, now the small businesses in towns are struggling to find and keep people. And so what's happened now is between Terrace, Kitimat, and Rupert, we've worked together and we had a grant to do a recruitment and retention process, and our economic development officer, Paul Vinatelli, is leading that. And so we're going to come up with a plan on how we're going to do recruitment and retention in Prince Rupert. The other thing that's come out of it is the North Coast Innovation Lab, led by EcoTrust. And so EcoTrust has launched a local economic development lab that's all about bringing innovation and creating things like social enterprises or local economic development within the community that helps build things from the grassroots. They've been doing public engagement interviews. Nathan Randall from EcoTrust is leading the project, he's the project manager. And what's cool about this is one of the things that they're going to start focusing on is how do we build an economy around marine and fish resources. For example, one of the Councillor Cunningham's ideas was, why don't we start selling fresh fish off the new public breakwater that we have down at the marina? Wouldn't that be great on a Saturday to come down and actually get some fresh fish from here, right? This is some of the stuff that the Innovation Lab's going to start looking at. How do we create a new economy within the community? And it's kind of a subset of redesign. The other things we've been doing are things like parking. We've done a whole new parking assessment of the community, the downtown parking, which we know are an issue. We've been, literally council and staff went on a bus and we went to all the neighborhoods and we looked at all the empty lots in town and we said, what are we going to do with this lot? What are we going to do with that lot? What are we going to do with that lot? And one of the things that's come out of that is that we want to maybe create 2 lots on each side of town, develop them so that people could put boats and trailers on each side of the town, on the east side and on the west side, because we know that parking, thank you. So the staff are working on that. The other thing we've done is we have a new digital system called a GIS system where everything is now being plugged into a digital system so that we can go with a click of a button where the potholes are, where the parking issues are, where all these issues are. So now we have even more real-time data. So our staff are working on that as well. The other thing that's come out of Redesign Rupert is the Small Business Advisory Council that was led by Councillor Moreau, who presented on Monday a whole list of new policies that we could potentially adopt as a city that's going to start the process of finally re-engaging the business community, but also being able to help develop the downtown. For example, one of the proposals is to do a downtown tax revitalization bylaw. So if people say, for example, want to tear down a building or actually renovate an old building, that we might say waive the taxes for 5 to 10 years to let them get going, start incentivizing people to actually do something with the downtown. So it's been a small business committee of some folks on council as well as the chamber and other business leaders, and they've come out with this whole new policy book that just got presented on Monday, and there was a nice interview that was done, I think, with Corey Callahan and Councillor Moreau. You can look that up online, the CFTK. And other things that group came up with was, hey, they have acknowledged that the caps and the Ridley Island tax sharing agreements are huge issues that we need to address, because that's one of the reasons why the business taxes are so high. So the community is finally starting to come together and work together on these issues together, and it's something we've just never been able, I don't believe, reaching out properly to the business community to be able to work more collaboratively together. So kudos to Councillor Moreau on doing that and getting that going, and I'm looking forward to seeing it keep progressing. And I also want to say here too that, you know what, the community is what Redesign Rupert's all about. It's about building the grassroots of the community again, getting the pride back, getting people wanting to help and get the community going again, and creating a space for people to help co-create this vision together. So I'm going to show you some of the, we're going to show you about some of the downtown design stuff. So in the foyer by the bar, which there's no alcohol at right tonight, there is a 17-foot printout of the new downtown and waterfront design plan that we initiated last year. There was a variety of public engagement done with that. We worked with all the business owners on 3rd Avenue, and there's a video here that will show you a bit about what's going on with that.
In November of 2016, the city had designers come to Prince Rupert to help us reimagine our downtown and waterfront. During the public consultation, the designers pulled out 10 major design concepts to help direct the way that our waterfront and downtown can develop. This included inspiration from other communities and our own, which you'll see throughout this video. The first concept is a new waterfront gateway in the area of Quinetza that could serve as a potential new location for the airport ferry dock and develop further as a space for the community. The second concept is to develop more linkages between the downtown and waterfront, improving future pedestrian traffic corridors and access. The third idea is to build on the existing strengths of Cow Bay, improving public use at the new breakwater and making changes that improve walkability in the area. When the designers came, they met with Kay and Trails, who've been working on redeveloping the trail network for Prince Rupert, so this was included as part of the waterfront plan as well. Their suggestion included viewpoints, wayfinding, and seating amenities. Seal Cove was also noted by residents and the designers as a place with a lot of future potential. The designers reimagined this area as a home to future commercial development, park space, and potentially even floating homes or businesses. And we all know that the downtown core could use some TLC. The designers saw opportunities for the city to help make the space more walkable and visually appealing to attract commerce. This includes expanding existing initiatives like our Street Tree program and the Business Facade Improvement program, and also the development of a new suite of policies that support the growth of small business. As a historical building with existing seating and garden space, City Hall was identified as a potential gathering area for the community for us to build on. The designers looked at the potential to add market space in the courtyard and use it more frequently as a place to host local events. Part of what will help revitalize downtown is if more people live there. The designers saw opportunity for residential development to expand in our downtown core above commercial spaces on the ground level. The development of Prince Rupert is based on the townsite plan prepared by Breton Hall. The plan was based on the City Beautiful movement, which built in central gathering places and was intended to encourage civic pride and engagement. The designers saw the potential to pay tribute to this plan by continuing to implement it and inlaying it into a city sidewalk. These changes won't happen overnight and will involve the efforts of many different community groups. But with many small moves, we're starting to see a big impact. With community groups in the city working together to breathe life into our shared spaces, we look forward to seeing these ideas continue to make progress.
Thank you, Councillor Moreau, for the voiceover. Okay, so we're going to talk about what's happened now. What's the results of all this? So, we did a variety of recreation center upgrades, new gym floors, heating upgrades, new LED lights, reducing the operation costs, handicap accessible washrooms. We have new handicap accessible lifts that take you up the stairs at both the pool and the actual rec center itself. So trying to get that rec center in a way that's accessible, reducing the costs, and feeling new and fresh. Public breakwater, we built the marina. That was a huge partnership. And also the recreation center was a big partnership. The port put a lot of money into the floors. And just so I can preface here, just so I remember here, is that this is all about partnership. Everything that's happened here is about people who've come together to really make this work together. And so it's not about the city taking credit and we did all this great stuff. It's not about that. It's actually about the fact that we're trying to help facilitate a new culture here of let's get things done. Doug Kerr, we were able to get that revitalization project underway. It's almost complete. Unfortunately, the windstorm took up some of that turf there, but our public works crew has done a phenomenal job getting that back in order. And baseball is something I know the minor association's finally here again. People are getting back involved with that. Very exciting. McKay Street Park. Here's a process where a community group over the last 6 years, which I was involved with back before I was even the mayor, did a whole process on facilitating public engagement. We knocked on all the doors of all the kids, getting all the kids in the McKay Park area involved, did a whole plan process. Then we did this big competition last year with BCAA, and you might have noticed that I spammed Facebook for basically a month and a half, and everybody here helped vote, and we won $100,000. And just 2 weekends ago, we spent 13 hours and built this thing with our own hands, the whole community. Thank you to Rupert. Yeah. And you know, our union worked with us too, said, you know what, have at her, allowed us to do the work because we have some contractual relations with them. So they're also seeing the benefits from this. And we had great people. Dave Reeve came out, helped us do all the, Dave Reeve right over there, helped us do all the log lining. Rupert Wind Steel, Roe and Bonnie came out with their machine and helped us save the day, basically. So it was a great day. The kids were watching, they're eating ice cream, they were loving it. And this is what we're talking about. This is what redesign is really all about. Mariners Park, thanks to Lions and the partners that came together from that, got a new top park downtown, looks fantastic. Rushbrook Trail, Can Trails, phenomenal plan. The Can Trails master plan for this community to connect the entire town to a big master plan trail network is awesome. The port, I believe $800,000 they put into this. The trails, I believe, is just finishing up now. CN, Pinnacle Pellet all came together, and the city, we were able to lease it to them so that they could do the liability and things like that. This is going to be a wonderful thing. I know that nobody here has at all walked on that at all yet. The next one they want to do is the McClymont Trail. The city, we helped put a grant in with their rural dividend fund, so they want to do the McClymont Trail, upgrade that, make it bike accessible, things like that, and then one trail at a time. And this Rushbrook Trail is part of our design plan that we have out there. So it's one piece. So the way we see it is that there's a lot of people see the trees in the forest, but sometimes you got to take a look above and see that we need to piece this thing together. And this is all about piecing this vision together. Downtown safety improvements. So we've had a lot of hits downtown. I can't quite speak for the province, but I can definitely say that downtown safety improvements are coming this year from the province. So the 2nd Avenue improvements are coming. We've had great meetings with them on council, and there will be more about this coming soon. And the other thing that's working too is that our staff is creating a 5-year community cleanup plan. So there's a lot of derelict vehicles in town, a lot of unsightly buildings and premises. There's a whole variety of junk in the community, and we acknowledge that we need to clean this place up. And so our staff is designing a sustainable plan because I mentioned the landfill is filled up. So where are we going to put vehicles? What are we going to do with this stuff? It needs to be thought out, and it needs to be planned accordingly. We can't just rush into it, even though I know the community is frustrated with some of the places in town. We know where they are. We have them in that digital system that I told you about. They're all marked. Actually, to be quite frank, we've actually went and have every home listed in our system and its condition, and all those types of data are now in there. So, all about partnership, industry working together, right? Even though we have a cap, our industries here are they're very generous. Housing. So housing isn't necessarily a city responsibility. It's not part of a city mandate. In some ways, there's like a blending of the lines. Some people feel it's our problem, but it's actually a provincial responsibility. And the way we look at it is a partnership. Where we can help, we can help. But based on our revenue, based on our situation now, we certainly don't develop housing. However, there's been huge progress made on housing. Seniors housing. 2 new seniors housing units are being built now. There's a 35-unit controlled rent housing at the old Neptune. Those rents are going to be between $550 to $700 a month. Everything, all furnished, internet, all that included. And the developer, which is Macro Properties, it's kind of like a good project for them back to the community, like a give-back project. And they're going to have a shuttle situation from the Neptune downtown so that seniors can access that. But there'll be controlled rents, 35 units. I believe that's coming online soon. As well as Metlacal is building a 55-unit seniors/elders village at the old King Ed property. That's underway. BC Housing's involved with that. 30 of those units are affordable housing, and they'll be tailored all for 55-plus seniors, which at this point, youth is now 40 years old, and 55 is now senior, so you're only an adult between 40 and 55 now. So, yeah, you only get 15 years to be an adult. Next, housing. So one of the things about the seniors housing, just so people know, is that one of our problems is we have an elderly population that still lives in their homes, and they want to downsize and just somewhere that's more manageable. And they end up being in these big homes, and what we need to do is have an opportunity for someone to retire in Rupert at an affordable rate, because sometimes pensions are $1,200 a month, and if you're spending $1,200 a month in rent, then you're not going to be able to afford to live. So that's why we need to have these affordable seniors housing units. And then what happens, it frees up those houses to get back on the market and gets younger families back into those houses. Housing for homeless. Huge re-coordination just happened to the community, which I wanted to explain to the community tonight. The new BC NDP government came in and basically invested $4 million into 36 new transitional modular homeless units that are going to go right next to the transition house. Now, we just announced that on Friday. The city, we are donating that property to them. They're going to develop that custom to our situation, and it's going to be managed by the North Coast Transition Society, who have taken that project on. So it's a partnership between the city, BC Housing, the province, and North Coast Transition Society. And the model is this. We have right now an emergency shelter downtown, and that's going to stay open until this is prepared in the fall, so that there's a smooth transition. They're individual units for folks who have no home at all. And what happens is they get them moving there, and then there's services that are actually going to be wrapped around that unit. So the transition house is actually going to provide services, life skills, addictions counseling, those types of things. There'll be shared kitchen facilities like for laundry, things like that. But what else is unique about this project is that it's going to have additional beds built into it as a shelter. So we're going to shut down Raffles as a shelter, get rid of the emergency shelter, get rid of the emergency shelter, and then we're going to have one place for folks to be able to go and keep that to that area. And so later on, I'd like to connect that to the McKay Park and those types of things. But at this point, it's been a nice re-coordination of that hard issue for the community, and we're looking forward to seeing that come up in the fall. It's been a lot of hard work on that. Getting close to being done, just FYI. Kitkatla, that Anchor Inn, right next to that property, is also being redeveloped as affordable housing. It's a Kitkatla's project. I can't remember how many units exactly are in there, but that'll also be that, and there'll be some medical clinics for their members in that as well. The McKay Street housing area, there's going to be some major renovations to those units as well. Trinity House just got approved by City Council a couple weeks ago. So now we have a place in the community for people who have already gone to detox. Now they have a place to go. Because one of the problems was people were coming back to town, then they got to go sleep on a friend's couch or hop around, try to find a place to stay. This is going to be a place. So thank you to Willie Brodry and his partners who said that. It's wonderful. And City Council also has approved 315 market housing units, so actual developed market housing developments, like there's the planned condo on the waterfront there right next to the casino, a variety of other developments. So we've essentially green-lighted every development that's come to the community, and some are underway now. So, brought to you by Partnership. Partnership is what makes all this go. And of course, First Nations, who have been working really well to help out in the community as well. Okay, so our next piece of this vision is our becoming a global community. And so this is our kind of economic vision. Prince Rupert is 3 days closer to Asia. It's one of our marketing, it's one of our main marketing items now. And the whole thing about Hayes 2.0 and why it's called Hayes 2.0 is because 100 years ago, Charles Hayes had a vision of making Rupert this big metropolitan area, the capital of BC, and being the trade export resource area to Asia. Fortunately, died on the Titanic, and only 100 years later did that vision really come to reality. So 2.0 is really what's the next iteration of that original vision, and some people like the name, some people don't. Don't worry about that. Think about what the content of the actual vision is. So what we're doing right now is we're working with Alaska and different areas. So we're working with Alaska, Asia, becoming an intercontinental hub. We have a 90-hour shot from our port to Chicago, which is the distribution heartland of North America. So a lot of the products now are coming in here, going right down there, getting out to market, and vice versa. A couple interesting initiatives that you guys, I think, are going to be very interested in. The first is re-coordinating our regional logistics. We have a project underway with the province right now, and I'm not allowed to talk too much about it, but I'm doing it anyways. And what it is traditionally this was called the Simpson Access Project, and it was to connect Lac Oulam's Malakala, our airport, to Rupert by a road network. And there was all these talks about having a bridge across to Digby and grand plans. In fact, we have a framed photo at City Hall of a bridge to Digby as kind of a funny item for us. However, what we've done is we've taken 8 plans that have happened since like the 80s and we've amalgamated them now into one plan. And that plan is this. What we're trying to do is phase 1 of this project is to take the airport ferry, the Metlakatla ferry, and the Lac Oulam's ferry and make them into one ferry. Amalgamate all those ferries into one because we're all independently having to pay for these ferries. It would go relocated at, as you saw in that video, down to Quinitza area, which we want to rebrand as Rupert's Landing. And that would just go straight across the harbor like this every 20 minutes. You'd be able to drive on yourself, no more buses. And then you could get to Metlakatla, a small little bridge here at what's called Venn Passage, right to the airport. This would increase access to the airport, would finally solve that problem that we have with that, as well as give road connection to Lacs and to Metlakatla. And Lac Oulam's has a road already right here to their community. So this is a big project that we're working on. We have alignment with the First Nations on this. It's something we've been really working hard on. And we've been able to get it as far as this project's ever gotten to a little bit more of a realistic place. Because a road network all the way around from Seal Cove through here down and a bridge, but that's like $1 billion. That's not going to happen. This is much more realistic. It's a shared cost, would lower our costs. That's a good opportunity for us. So it's one of the things we're working on right now. Thank you. The next piece to this is something what the Alaskans want. And so we're part of what's called the Southeast Alaskan Conference, and we're the only Canadian city that's part of an Alaskan network of economic development, basically. Because back in the 50s, I believe, 50s, yeah? Late 50s, the Alaskans built a ferry to Rupert, BC Ferries built a ferry to Rupert, and we connected the Alaskan Marine Highway system. And so I go there twice to 3 times a year, and it's actually a very interesting part of my job, actually. And what we want to do is this, 2 things. If we got that network, that new road connection, they would actually prefer to move their ferry terminal to Lac Oulam's because it would be a straight shot to Ketchikan, because right now The Alaskans are losing like $4 billion a year, and their economy is tanking, and the question of keeping that ferry to Rupert is top of mind for them. We're trying to figure out a solution. We have some interim things that are coming out. I met with Governor Walker and Lieutenant Governor Byron a lot, I think in February. I've been working closely with the Consul General's office in Vancouver, as well as every time I go to Ottawa, we go to the U.S. Embassy, and we're working with them on these issues. And so that would save them cost. It would open up passengers to here and connect into Rupert, and would kind of re-coordinate some of the logistics of the area. So we're working on that. The other thing we're trying to do too is, because of federal trade barriers, which is the lines right there, they can't take their products and come through our port to go to Asia. They actually have to go all the way down to Seattle, which costs them a lot of money, and then they go to the Seattle port, and then they go out to market there. So what we're trying to create is a new economic framework that allows them, Alaska, to come and use Rupert's port so that they can have efficiency of scale like that. So we're working with the governor's office on that as well. These are long-term plans. So becoming a global community section is all about the next long-term view of what Prince Rupert's future looks like, and how can we increase the economic opportunities here by partnering with not just people here in the community, but other countries. I was allowed to put this slide on from the port. It is confirmed that they are going to be building a road from the container facility to Ridley Island, and it will remove all container traffic from downtown. Okay, so that is going to be a huge project for this community. It's going to save our downtown in so many ways. The other thing we're working on is Wantage Road bypass system here. So this is where the Lester Center is now, ish, somewhere around here. And we want to connect over here, which would connect to DP World, and have two accesses to that facility. And then what we want to do is open up all these lands here to potentially maybe light industrial laydown areas. There's nowhere for storage in town. There's nowhere to put things, lay down pipes, things like that. This would be a huge opportunity for that if we can get this project through. So we're working with DP World on that, and the province. The other thing that could be an opportunity here as well is that potentially if that port road goes down this way and this road gets connected, this could potentially turn into the highway. And the city could acquire 2nd Avenue, and then we would have full control over developing the downtown. We can condense the downtown and quiet down the downtown. It's an opportunity. We're just exploring those options. I've been told to manage expectations, so we're just working towards that. My communications manager's sitting there going, okay, last but not least, 2030 Sustainable City. About a year and a half ago, I formed a small committee, a research committee, that was to take a look at other community plans when it comes to sustainability. Things like local energy production, local food production, transportation, like electric vehicles, those types of initiatives. Composting, right? We should have a huge composting facility here. It would be wonderful. Other things like curbside recycling, which was actually in this year's budget. Go ahead. Thank you. It was actually in this year's budget to get a truck to do curbside recycling. However, the grant that we applied for fell through, so now we're just trying to find another option, another grant to do that. But curbside recycling is something we definitely want to do, and we have the capacity to do it now. And so what I want to say about this is this. There's a lot of stuff when it comes to here. Bike lanes, downtown safety stuff, a whole variety of things. And so in 2019, we're going to initiate a process to get the community involved, to start to design what this plan looks, and to develop some policies that we can realistically meet. Because here's personally my vision, is that come 2030 that we have all of Watson Island subscribed to, the port's properties are all fully subscribed, we have a robust and diversified economy. But also that we have local food and local energy and all these other new economy things, and that those two worlds can coexist together. It doesn't have to be a division. It could actually be a coexisting relationship. So we're going to start a process to get that going, because I know a lot of people in this community are very interested in this topic, and it's something I'm personally passionate about. Something else I want to say before I close up here is that if we get new money into this community through Watson or AltaGas or the RBA, or somehow getting some reconciliation with the Ridley Island tax or something happens with the caps. We want to design our budget so that it doesn't, so that the budget is designed to withstand a couple industries closing down in the future, so that we don't just maximize the budget with the new money that comes in. So if we lose 2 industries, the town doesn't just collapse with it. So we want to prepare for the long-term future, because we all have to keep in mind, no matter what industry is here now, that does not mean it's going to be here 2060, 2070. We have to keep making sure that we're looking 20 to 50 to 100 years ahead of time, trying to analyze the trends. AI, automation, these are huge issues that are going to affect us as a local community, whether we like it or not. There's a lot of things happening in those worlds. Anyway, so in closing, I just want to say that what is really making this all go is our people. Our people are our potential, not just at the city, not with this council, but the community itself, right? People working together for a common cause. New money's coming in soon. A few $1 million between 2019 and 2022 is coming into this town. It's pretty much guaranteed income now, particularly with AltaGas and Pembina. So we're just about to turn the corner now. What are we going to be able to do with that money? Lots of great things, particularly increasing the road budget, something we definitely are going to be targeting. We have our priorities in check now. We have a timeline, a plan. That's why we wanted you all here today, to show you. We have a plan now. It's a blueprint for the future. And it's a time for optimism now for this community. It's a time for us to finally update in our minds that this community is no longer here. Actually, we are here. We're actually moving forward. It's time to let go of the past, and we all need to walk out of here today and go, you know what? Actually, we are on the right track, and we are moving forward. And you know what? I want to be involved with that too. And we want people to be involved with that. So it's Rupert's time to shine. Everybody here is doing all their parts. We're just trying to help facilitate stakeholders and trying to help facilitate the situation. We got infrastructure tackling, money. We're trying to get this town off the ground. So thank you very much for coming here tonight. Thanks, Benny. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to do a Q&A. However, those who want to go, we're going to do a little 3 to 5 minute break. You can shuffle out because I know it's getting late, so it's a nice night. Maybe get some sun. Those who want to stick around for, thanks for coming, eh? Absolutely. Those who want to stick around for Q&A can stick around. Those who need to go home and have a good night, thank you very much for coming.